Hello, everybody. Today I'm so glad to be with Dr. Nasser Abdel Wahab. And in the last episode, we discussed the history of formal systems and its relationship with fiqh. And last time we stopped um, discussing the problem of the Aristotelian logics. Welcome back, sir, and you can go ahead.
Yeah, as we were saying, welcome again, Ahmed. As we were saying, Aristotelian logics itself is a formal system. So actually, the idea of using formal system is a very old idea. It's not a, it's an idea at least since the Greek, and it has been adopted by Muslims, and there were controversy whether we adopt it fully or we adopt only partially and take out the things, especially the metaphysical things which we don't like. One of the metaphysical things is the idea of absolute truth. This is what we discussed last time. And actually, this is here a list of negative things is or problems with Aristotelian logics. So we said last time that the idea of an absolute truth was actually used as a demarcation criterion for science by even such bright people like Averroes, who defined science to be science is knowing the thing as it is in reality, which we know today is not right. We know that through Gödel, at least, that there are formulas which cannot be proven to be either true or false. And this is called the law of excluded middle. So this law of excluded middle is either false or useless. So actually, now this is a very big hit to Aristotelian ideas, because Aristotelian ideas, for them, this is a law, the excluded middle. Anything is either true or false. This has been taken as a dogma for centuries. Now, as per the new formalizations of logics, notably mathematical logics, we know that the law of excluded middle is not really, it's either useless because we cannot know the truth value of a formula. Not all formulas, most formulas we can at least try to find their truth value, but there are some formulas which cannot be shown either to be true or false. In contrast, Al-Ghazali defines science. Now, this was the definition of Averroes, and it uses the philosophy which we call correspondent theory of truth, because of course, if you say that there is an absolute truth and your science can help you find this absolute truth, which is beyond your own rationality, it is existing outside yourself, then of course, this means that science is speaking about reality. In contrast, Al-Ghazali defines science to be a decisive act of affirmation. Note the difference between this formulation of science. Now, this is also a definition of science. This is another definition. This definition comes from Al-Mustasfa, but it refers to a decisive action of the human. So it's an action. It's not referring to reality. It's not referring to an ontology. It's referring to an epistemology. It is about cognition. It is not about ontology. And this is what I find really amazing with Al-Ghazali, and this is why many people attacked him.
And his chef d'oeuvre in Mustafa, it's the book in Usul al-Fiqh, by the way.
Yes, of course. And so he was attacked because he is the middle way, actually. Of course, the people who are to the right of him will attack him, and the people who are to the left of him will attack him. So he's in the middle way. And he says that logic is useful as a machine, but it has no ontological value. Now, the second point is essentialism. And here again, I repeat what I said last time. Essentialism is the idea that everything has one precise definition describing its essence. Physics falsifies this claim.
mm,
Today we know particles have dual essences.
mm,
If you view a particle from one side, it will you will see something. If you view it from another side, you can treat it as a wave. You can treat it as a body or as a particle,
mm,
and both are essences. You cannot say this is essence and this is not essence.
mm, mm,
Now, in modern philosophy, Quine came and underlined exactly this, that we cannot agree on any essential properties.
mm,
So Quine's philosophy is basically saying, he even called Aristotelian essentialism, he called it the jungle of Aristotelian essentialism. He
mm,
considers it to be a very primitive,
mm,
premature idea
mm,
of the world, to say that there are some essences and we are describing essences.
mm,
So, because basically we cannot agree on essential properties of anything. Now, there is also the objection of Wittgenstein and Ibn Taymiyyah, who actually said, why are you describing essential essences? You are describing them, and or let's say, how are you describing essences? You are describing them using logics also. So you have some logical descriptions, and you pretend that these logical expressions are the essences.
mm,
But their objection is to say a human being never uses definitions. When I
mm,
use the word sun in my sentences, for example, the sun is hot, or today is a very shiny day because the sun is, there are no clouds and the sun is shining.
mm,
I don't first define the sun before using it. It doesn't work like this. So
mm,
basically, Wittgenstein and Ibn Taymiyyah says that the idea of defining something and then using this definition is not natural. It's not a natural idea.
mm.
It's not the way
It's an
we do it.
abnormal logic. Yeah.
And it's an abnormal behavior,
Mm,
because a human never defines something before using it,
mm,
never defines a terminology before using it.
mm,
And then there was also the problem that you cannot model analogy
mm,
except using generalizations. And
mm,
then the last, not least thing, is limited expressivity, uh, where only noun sentences can be used in logics.
mm,
So in Aristotelian logics. So now let's take a look, a more technical look on
mm,
uh, the difference between Aristotelian formal systems and
mm,
mathematical logics formal systems. Now, these are the four famous figures of Aristotelian syllogism.
mm,
What is depicted here is actually the way you deduce.
mm,
You have some modes, what
mm,
they call modes,
mm,
and what they call figures. So you have basically four figures, and you
mm,
see the difference between the figures is that the middle term
mm,
is here diagonal,
mm,
uh, diagonal to the left, and here it is diagonal to the right, and here it is orthogonal
mm,
uh, right and orthogonal left. So the four figures, this M stands for the middle term,
mm.
the middle term of Aristotelian, the Aristotelian.
And when
Actually,
we
what
change the middle term, the result change.
so actually when you have two, actually what you have here are two sentences,
Mm,
yeah? And then the middle term between the two sentences is used to provide a new sentence. So you have a sentence where, for example, let me give an example.
mm,
Every S is P,
mm,
and no S is P, and some S is P, and some S is not P. Now, these are the different moods.
mm,
This is what I call mood. So there is a universal affirmative mood where I say everything is such and such. لكل أو
mm,
كل شيء كذا وكذا.
mm,
Yeah. So there is universal affirmative, universal negative,
mm,
no, لا شيء كذا. Yeah.
mm,
Particular affirmative, some things are so and so, and then particular negative, some things are not so and so. So these are the modes. So
mm,
these are four modes. So basically, of course, also the way you configure the sentences together, where the middle term is either diagonal or orthogonal, influences also your deduction. Let's look at a certain deduction. So the major premise could be, for example, all men are mortal and all Greeks are men. Yeah. So you see here, this is the
all Greeks
diagonal,
are mortal.
the diagonal. So then all Greeks are mortal.
Mm,
Of course, this is here universal affirmation. Yeah.
mm,
I could have used here three other forms. So I
mm,
could have, I have here four possible forms for the same
mm.
sentence. Yeah. So it's basically this very simple structural
Mm,
way of deduction. So actually, Aristotelian logics is actually about deducing from the structure something.
mm.
You have the structure of sentences, you put them
But not from the real world.
near but they will tell you it's not interesting. We are speaking about formalization. Now we have
Uh,
here to make a difference between the real, we don't see the
mm,
real world. We are now
mm,
here in the machine. Now this is a
mm,
machine.
mm,
We can blindfolded deduce the same.
mm.
Now, this is the interesting aspect of formal system, that if you reach a certain abstraction level,
Mm,
then you could, without knowing even the meaning of the things behind it,
mm,
deduce the thing. So I could have, instead of saying men, I could have put here X, like
women.
I like
Mm,
yeah,
mm,
like I was using the variables before,
mm,
like what we had before. Yeah.
mm,
So I,
mm,
instead of putting any real word, I could put here a symbol. Yeah.
mm.
So by studying the structure of two consecutive sentences, I can find a third one.
Mm,
Of course, this is a restriction, of course, but it's a very useful restriction,
mm.
because I don't need to know the meanings in or to even see the denotation of this in the real world. It could have, I could have said anything, but still the deduced sentence would be valid.
Mm.
Imagine now, it's very interesting that without knowing what is in the sentence, I can deduce this
Mm.
in any case, if I put here men or I put here cats,
So it's an
or I put
abstract mechanism for a machine.
it's an abstract mechanism which gives you some possibility of deduction. Of course, it is weak, means that it has only those modes and only those possibilities. You have only 256 different possibilities. You
Mm.
cannot use more.
Mm.
So if you come with natural language, a lot of things which we deduce is not like this. It's not like this. We deduce using very much more complicated ways. But this is a reduction of what we can do, and it's a very useful one because you can also program it very easily.
Mm.
Now let's go to mathematical logics.
This is important, huh?
Now this is here mathematical. Now here the difference, of course, it's a very subtle thing to, and I have written about it. It's a scientific subject. What made people go to mathematical logics? We have talked a little about it in the
Mm.
first part.
Mm.
We said that the idea of a function cannot be, which is very important for mathematics, cannot be implemented using Aristotelian forms. So what they did is they invented the idea of predicates. You see here, this is P is a predicate,
Mm.
means a property of something. X stands for the thing, and P stands for its predicate.
Mm.
This sign, this small pyramid is and this is not. So what you do in mathematical logics is this is here exists. So this formula says there doesn't exist an X
Mm.
which has the property P and the property R.
Mm.
There doesn't exist an X which has the property S and has not the property R.
Mm.
And then number three, for all X, if X has the property A, this means that X has the property P.
mm,
Now, this type of formulas, this is predicate calculus of degree 1.
mm,
Why I say, there is degree 0, evidently there is degree 2, and so on. So
mm,
they are degrees of power of the formula. The formula here is of degree 1. Why? Because my existential quantification, this is called existential quantification,
mm,
and my all all quantifier. So كل, the word كل, which was used in Aristotelian as part of the sentence, here it is used
universal sense.
to
Mm,
quantify
mm,
for the predicates. Yeah,
mm,
there is a
mm,
difference. So here, when you see this symbol, which is a symbol of kul for
mm,
every, and this
mm,
is a symbol of exists, you know
mm,
that this is logics of order 1.
mm,
Now, this is more powerful than the Aristotelian forms. Why? Because you can have new inference rules. Like, for example, you can eliminate this call,
mm,
and by elimination, so here you find here that by elimination from 3 and 4, I get this and that. Yeah. So you have much more subtle inference rules other than the inference rules which we just show. I don't want to go deeper because it's a
It's
difficult
very
thing.
technical and it needs people who are
It's
trained.
very technical. Yes,
Yeah,
it needs people, but I urge anyone who is interested. It's not very difficult. If you have to invest a little time to understand,
yeah. It
and
needs
it
Omar
is also
al-Khayyam. Yeah.
very funny. It is very funny if you know what you do.
Mm,
Now, now let's discuss now our modern perspective. Is mathematical logic a good alternative?
mm,
We saw the Aristotelian. You remarked that this has nothing to do with the reality. Of course,
mm,
also mathematical logic has nothing to do with reality, but
mm,
it is more powerful.
mm,
It has more inference rules, and it is more, you can express more with it. Especially you
mm,
can express the functions which are very useful in mathematics.
mm,
Now, the positive side of mathematical logics. Now, the question here is mathematical logics a good alternative for, of course, for fiqh. I'm speaking here of fiqh. I'm not
mm,
saying is mathematical logics a good alternative for mathematics.
mm,
It's actually was created for mathematics. But I'm speaking here about fiqh. Now, the positive side is that it enables an algorithmic and relative definition of truth. So the first thing is that this idea of absolute truth is destroyed.
mm,
So I don't have here absolute truth.
mm,
If I use mathematical logic, there is nothing like absolute. All
mm,
this metaphysical blah blah which came with Aristotle
mm,
is not. Why? Because it enables an algorithmic, means cognitive, like the idea of Al-Ghazali, and at
mm,
the same time relative definition of truth.
mm,
It's more expressive because
mm,
it can model verb phrases and sentences as well.
mm,
So because it models the function, it can also model the verb. You can think of the verb as a function, actually.
mm,
It permits seamlessly including other sciences within fiqh.
mm,
Why? Because we have other sciences already expressed in mathematical logics.
mm,
So if I want, for example, to include mathematics, it's easy because if I say let's use in fiqh instead of Aristotelian, let's
mm,
use mathematical logics,
mm, mm. It can
then
be.
actually I'm including also all mathematics.
Mm,
Yeah. So this is also very positive side. It poses the question of decidability. For the
mm,
first time, we can discuss decidability within fiqh. Yeah.
mm,
And this is exactly what we did in our first publication.
mm.
We
Will,
discussed decidability. The question whether, and we will see it, what we did.
mm.
Yeah.
With limited definitions.
It enables a mechanism of
Mm,
theorem proving and programming, of course.
mm,
Now, the question of decidability of fiqh is very important, like we have discussed before, you and me,
mm,
but we will show it here more. because of course fiqh is about practical questions. You
Mm.
have practical rules,
In the real
practical
world,
in the real world. So you
unchangeable and it's changeable.
for the real world, it's useless if you have something which is undecided.
Mm.
So you need to have something which is more decided. So this is, although I'm saying that posing the question is a positive thing, but the
Mm.
fact that mathematical logic is undecidable per
Mm.
definition might pose a threat for fiqh, of course, because
Mm.
we express fiqh theorems using mathematical logics, and we know that mathematical logics is intrinsically undecidable. Then maybe I'm just saying maybe fiqh is undecidable. Then in that
Mm.
case, and this is a question which we discussed in our first publication about this subject. Now,
Mm.
what is the negative side of using mathematical logics?
Mm.
First and foremost, is it fails to model even some basic mathematical concepts.
Mm.
So, for example, we saw that the concept of finiteness, you cannot model it.
Mm.
The concept of infinity, even the difference between types of infinities, you cannot model it.
Mm.
Even the basic mathematical concepts, which are intuitive there, you cannot model them using correctly model them using mathematical logics. Actually, it failed in its own subject. It was designed to help model mathematics. It
Mm.
failed. Actually, it failed.
Mm.
This is
Oh.
a
Mm.
very
Mm.
famous failure. Actually, this is a failure which resulted in computer science.
Mm.
Actually,
Mm.
this is
Mm.
a failure which resulted in the modern computer science.
Mm.
So it failed. Yeah. Then very important is also what we recently discovered. This is my latest publication, that it contradicts semantic principles of the Arabic language.
Mm.
Very serious because, as you know, fiqh depends on Arabic.
Exactly. Depends
If
the
you
text
use,
in
yeah,
Arabic.
so if you use any formal system which is contradicting the semantic principle of Arabic, this means that it's
To be a
useless.
stumbling block. Mm.
Yeah. Now, somebody might ask the question, why do we need to change the formal system at all? Why don't we just leave Aristotelian logics as it is, formalize it, program it?
Mm.
Of course, this is not done until now. It hasn't
Mm.
been done.
Mm.
This is the core of our project. What
Mm.
we did is that we took Aristotelian forms of syllogism and programmed it. I have programmed it and put it in within Arabic also.
Mm.
Uh, but the question, the theoretical question, should we change it? Why do we want to change this formal system?
Mm.
First of all, they are the new discoveries in science, math, and logics. For
Mm.
example, the idea of undecidability, of course, it is not nice within fiqh to have
Mm.
this.
Because we want to know the ruling of something halal, haram,
Yeah,
then.
but when we say that formal system is undecidable, this doesn't mean that every question is undecidable.
Mm.
No, there are some questions which are undecidable and some are decidable. So we need the idea itself, the concept itself of undecidability is important in Islamic science, in my view, not only in fiqh but also in other places, like for example in all the discussions about aqidah and all these quarrels which are about
Mu'tazilis, Ash'aris, and so on.
Mu'tazilis, about the proofs of God and all these type
Mm.
of
Mm.
things.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
I think if we had the concept, if the fuqaha, if the scientists, the fiqh scientists had the
Schools.
concept
Mm.
of
Mm.
undecidability in
Mm.
their mind, they would have changed their views. So, for
I think
example,
I think it
Mu'tazila,
does exist in the Quran. ليس كمثله شيء.
yeah,
or
we
what would
discussed
happen?
this before, but it's not. No, Laysa kamithlihi is different because this concerns the terminology, the ontology, or the meaning of the word itself. But I'm here speaking, undecidability has to do with the problems themselves, the
Okay.
concrete problems themselves. When I say a problem is undecidable, means something which I as a human want to do and I cannot do.
Mm.
I will not be able to do.
It's
Undecidable
beyond
form.
my abilities. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a particular problem. It's not only a definition of a concept, but it is a particular problem which I cannot decide. So if the fuqaha, I think if the fuqaha knew about this undecidability, if you embed undecidability in the concepts of fiqh, you, and discuss it properly and formally in a right way, you will find that many things are undecidable actually, and that is okay. Yeah. So the most important new discovery is this undecidability. It's not taken over now in the current Aristotelian formal system. Now, there is also a lot of noise coming from Western dogmas enforced on Islamic studies. So, changing the formal, even formalizing any type of formalization, it show us how pseudoscientific Islamic studies, especially Western dogmas about Islam, are actually, because they are not even
We can say
Aristotelian.
ideologies. Ideology.
Yeah, they are no dogmas. They are dogmas. They are coming from the idea that, as we said before many times, this positivist Durkheim idea that the universal church theorem and so on. So they mix everything together, and they don't have an idea even of formalization. They ignore the fact that formal system of fiqh existed since the Umayyad reign, and that this is a very big indication that it is scientific. It's not pseudo-scientific. So the whole methodology of Islamic studies will fall. If we formalize fiqh, then the whole methodology falls. Of course, we have formalized fiqh, and of course, this whole methodology is false now. But if we revive it again, if we discuss it again, if we formalize it again, it will be apparent for everyone that it is absurd to speak, to treat Islamic sciences as if they are pseudosciences. Is actually the opposite. The way people treat Islamic sciences today is in itself pseudo-scientific. Of course, there is also another practical problem. There are less and less human capacities in fiqh. The fuqaha themselves, they are becoming less and less.
Yeah.
The good people, they are becoming less and less. So we have here a sincere problem.
Great problem in the quality of the faqih. Yeah.
So this means that we need to take the knowledge and put it in a form which is stable, like the Muslims did with Quran in the first days, where they were afraid that the people who learned Quran and who knew who recited Quran, who memorized Quran, that they will die. So they wrote it down so that it will not be lost. So what we need to do here, in my opinion, using this formalization, is that we will formalize the basic rules of fiqh into a machine so that it remains even if we don't have human capacity. Now, of course, there is also a need for revision of old fatwas and principles. There are many old fatwas which have to be revised, of course, because we have now new
different contexts.
Even the problems are not described should be, at least we attempt to describe our problems in a new way, which is very near to our current situation. And new problems are, there are, of course, new problems, like, for example, something like the artificial intelligence itself, like the validity of using machine for fiqh decisions. Yeah,
exactly.
Our whole project in itself, is it halal or haram?
Yeah.
Of course, I know the answer. Of course, I know the answer, because for me, a machine is only an assistance. It's like telling me,
it's a tool.
Is it halal or haram to use a clock to know the time of the prayer?
Or to use the calculator, for example.
Yeah, it's an absurd question. It's a very clear question. But of course, if I say the clock knows everything, and the clock is really is, and the clock can work by itself, of course, this is then haram. Yeah. So now there is here a very important point. How much time do we have?
I think now we have 6 minutes.
Okay. Here, this is a very important part. Now, this is a result of our of the first paper we did about algorithm, about decidability in fiqh. So the need for revision of fatwas and rulings poses some meta questions.
Mm,
Look at these questions.
mm,
The people, you know that Quran speaks about the completeness of Sharia.
mm.
اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم
Yeah, yeah.
and بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم
قضيت لك
الإسلام
بالإسلام
دينا.
دين.
And Muslims, scholars, and even normal people, they have an understanding, an intuitive understanding that Sharia is complete. Yeah?
Mm,
When I say complete, what do I mean? Formalizing the fiqh helps me to get an understanding of the idea, what do I mean by completeness?
mm,
So um, I have in the paper which we wrote, we discussed exactly this. What do we mean by completeness? And
mm,
there is a completeness concept in logics, in
mm,
mathematical, there is a completeness concept, but also in Aristotelian logics,
mm,
there is a corresponding completeness concept for logics, and there is a correctness concept. So logical system can be correct or sound. They call it also sound and complete. And formal system of fiqh should also be something like also sound and complete. So we formalized a proposition. If we say that in Islamic jurisprudence there exists a fiqh rule for the deduction of any verdict,
mm,
deduction done using a formal logical system, i.e., Islamic jurisprudence constitute a consistent legislation.
legislation.
Yeah?
Mm,
So if I call or if I have an impression that for every any legal verdict which I give, any fiqh verdict which I give has a
mm,
rule, then I
mm,
call this a consistent legislation. And this corresponds to the
mm,
concept of correctness or soundness.
mm,
Means, now this is important because if you say your system is sound in logics, that means anything which you deduce from
mm,
your system, anything which comes with your system is okay from the semantic point of view. It's not wrong. Yeah.
mm,
So the corresponding idea in fiqh here is to say any verdict which I give, there should be a fiqh rule.
mm,
If this doesn't happen, then I have a gap in my formal system. Yeah. So, for example, if for example, if I have a question, I get a question, and then I have a legal verdict. Someone asks you, for example, can I make wudu with Coca-Cola or Pepsi?
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So if I say you can, it is you cannot make a wudu with Pepsi, then
mm.
there should be I should be also able to tell you why.
The reasoning. Mm, mm,
What is the reason why I cannot do it?
mm, mm, mm,
And this is what I call consistent legislation. This
mm,
is what corresponds to the correctness of logics. It means there is a rule which made me tell you this. Of
mm,
course, there is a rule in that case because in our terminology, we know that you are able to, and this comes from Quran itself and from a
mm,
hadith, very strong hadith,
mm,
that for wudu you need pure water.
mm,
If something is pure but it is mingled with water, and the properties of water, of pure water, are disturbed, then you cannot do wudu with it. Why?
mm,
We have a hadith, and there is also Quran which backs up this hadith, which says you will do the wudu using water, not using anything which takes the properties of water out. When I say water, it must be water, ماء المطلق, not any الماء الطاهر المطهر. It must be طاهر and مطهر. Huh? So
Yeah,
in that
pure and
case,
purifying.
when I tell you you cannot do with Pepsi, I have a rule. So this means my fiqh is if for any verdict I do there is a rule, then I call this a consistent fiqh school. If, for example, the Ahnaf have for every verdict they do a certain rule, and this is what actually people in our days tend to ask you always, what is your dalil? Bring me the dalil. Yeah. So what is the evidence? Bring me the evidence from Quran and Sunnah for your verdict. Yeah. This is what you. So this proposition is actually materializing this idea, and it corresponds to, in mathematical laws, to correctness. Yeah. I think we are out of time now.
We are almost done. Yeah, yeah. You can.
Ah,
You have less than 1 minute. Yeah.
yeah.
Do
Now
we
this,
have to? Is it better to stop here?
I think it's better to stop
Okay.
and yeah, because the other is more subtle.
Okay. So in the coming episode, we will take the proposition number 2, and we have to thank now Dr. Abdul Wahab. Thank you very much, and see you in the next episode, inshallah. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.